Welcome to the Strategic Project Leader, where we help you leverage strategic project management so you can achieve your goals. Now, here's your host, Fola Alabi.
Good morning and welcome to another good episode on the Strategic Project Leader podcast. It's with great joy that I come to you today in your homes as we talk about another interesting topic. But as you know, projects are the engines of progress. They paint the invisible picture and bring together a canvas that no one has probably ever thought about before. And the heroes, the unsung heroes of our time who create projects and bring things to life are project mind professionals. I am always excited to help amplify your voices and help you become better leaders, be it at home and even at work. And we bring together strategic leadership and project management to help you become strategic project leaders. I am your host, Fola Alabi. I'm a strategic leadership coach. People call me a business lifestyle catalyst because I bring life and business, everything all together for you to enable to create the life you've truly always craved for. Today, I have got a great leader as well with me coming at you live, and we're going to be talking about something really, really exceptional because when we met for the first time, goodness, I was just bubbling with joy because we aligned on so many fronts. This is a leader who has spent, decades doing research and doing work to help leaders become high performance. She's experienced in high performance and she specializes in total life alignment, leadership development, and mindset mastery, even conflict resolution. As you know, the fact that we're humans, we will always experience some form of conflict or the other. And she's the one that you definitely need to call upon when you're experiencing such. She's also great at effective communication, and she helps organizations as well as leaders become the best possible, versions of themselves as well. Give me a round of applause as well as I bring on stage our leader, Juile Hruska. I hope I pronounced that right. Julie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Fola. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Juile Hruska, really glad to be on the show, and I can't wait to get started and have this really impactful conversation.
Fantastic. Great to have you. Let us know where you're joining us from. And those who are actually online as well, let me know where you're connecting from today so you can be part of the conversation. So, Julie, where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from Asheville, North Carolina today. It's nice and rainy out, but it's a beautiful place in the mountains of Western North Carolina.
Fantastic. Oh goodness. I can only imagine. Here I'm joining you from Calgary, Alberta in Canada. It is like we cannot complain because although it's a little bit cold, but it's not snowy because normally at this time of the year, it's probably about minus 25 or almost minus 30 already. That's right. And so when we see like -2 and all that, we are just super excited. Yes. And let me know. I can see we've got Edgar from Mexico. Great to be here. I can see Dave as well from Alberta. Thanks for being here as well. We're gonna jump right in. What brought you into the world of performance management, Julie?
Well, it's such an interesting path. My original degree when I first went to college is in education, and I have a master's degree in education, curriculum, and development. And so I have quite an interesting path with it, but I'll give you the very concise version. Um, Basically, over my time in life, I was raised in a very conservative family where you grow up, you get married, you have kids, you raise your kids. So even though I started as an educator, I married very young. I ended up taking some time off to have children. And then I woke up and realized I'd been living my parents' life and not my own. And I had to undergo the process of recreating my life. And in that process, I started teaching power yoga. So in power yoga, I thought I'm going to change the world because it's so empowering. I'm going to change the world. Everyone needs power yoga. And as soon as I got in power yoga, I realized that it was just one tool for transformation and that really we had to get to the deeper issues. And so I started doing professional development and trainings in coaching and high performance and really mindset, psychology, limiting beliefs. So when I was in college, I was looking at becoming a psychologist, and then I kind of shifted to education. So it brought everything full circle for me. And when we talk about success and people as a whole becoming successful, it really is a holistic process of becoming empowered in your career, relationships, health, and finance.
100%. I love the fact that you mentioned that holistic look when it comes to our career, our finances, as well as even business in general. And when we think about I love the fact that we pick strategic leadership because that's a piece that I am passionate about as well. And when you look at organizations, we need leaders who can look at the whole and create strategies to help the organizations achieve whatever strategies they've actually set either at the beginning of the year or through the course of the year as well. And when we think about the vision, the direction, decision making, planning, innovation, adaptability, all these things kind of comes up in the air. How can we look at that and help redefine success, especially for project managers or business leaders?
Well, I think you have to look at it twofold. You have to look at it first as the person.
Okay.
Now, how does the individual show up as their best selves as a leader? So that's one component. And then beyond the taking care of the leader and making sure they're leading by example and embodying the very best version of themselves, then you have to look separately at the company and what's the vision of the company? How do we enlist collaborators? How does the leadership team embody the energy of empowerment and create a high performance culture? And then looking at how do you evaluate that and carry it forward. So really two fronts. It's you have to start with the leaders in the company and make sure they're functioning at their optimal levels before you can bring them all together and create the vision. So we have two tiers there of conversation to go through today.
Awesome. You mentioned something about looking at the leader, as an individual as well, because leaders and individuals come into organizations, right? They come with their baggages. However, if you don't deal with things that are also happening in your personal life, how does that truly affect success overall? Because I know at times people kind of say, you're at work, let's focus on work and let's leave life at home.
Right? But as we all know, that's not how life works. There's this misperception that there's a work-life balance. Like work is over here and everything else is over here. But really, work is just part of your life. It's your career, relationships, your health, your finances, your leisure activities, and that all makes you who you are. So if you have an issue in your relationships or an issue with your health, of course it's going to affect the executive, the career person, the project manager. And so if you really want an organization to thrive, you have to make sure that your leaders are thriving.
Mm. Yes. And so, how exactly can you, when we think about the leaders who have been brought into organizations, then they have teams and everyone kind of has their own baggages at home. And how can the leaders not really help their, employees really thrive when they're not really with them at home? So, what kind of steps can they start putting in place now to help create that space where they can truly thrive?
Yeah, I think for leaders, before they can really lead effectively, they have to have clarity. They have to have clarity of self. They have to have clarity of their purpose and their passion in their organization, and then clarity of the vision they want to carry forward. So when you start with clarity of the self, you have to be able to do what I call a real and raw evaluation of
Mm,
what of your
yes.
strengths, your
Yes.
weaknesses, your limiting beliefs. This is something like everybody talks about strengths and weaknesses and leadership, but we rarely talk about the limiting beliefs. And if you have limiting beliefs around success, then you're going to bring that to the table, right? So if you are really frugal, then when initiatives come up that require a large part of the budget, you're going to be held back by those scarcity beliefs. Likewise, if you believe that your organization needs to be really out there and in the public and moving forward and getting lots of attention, you're going to be emphasizing that. So each leader needs to get really clear on who they are and what their purpose is in the organization and what their vision is. And then the leadership team needs to come together and really get on the same page. Okay, here's how I see it. Here are the priorities that I see. What are your priorities? And then let's work together to create and co-create really this vision for the company moving forward. And a lot of companies do this at the beginning, but what they fail to do is revisit it annually, coming back like, okay, for 2024, what is the vision of our company?
So looking at the overall vision as that bigger picture, and even before we get even to that grand scale, I want us to really look at the individuals here because a lot of the times people kind of just struggle. You spoke about clarity on understanding what your vision is, where you want to get to. And I love the fact that you mentioned those limiting beliefs because at the end of the day, there's so much we can do or achieve. But when we have those limiting beliefs, you can hardly move past that. So when project managers or leaders go off and do like a self-assessment, they now understand I've got some couple of strengths, I've got some weaknesses. These are my limiting beliefs. I also add a piece about my blind spots.
Right.
Like, what are the things that I'm not even aware of that may be impeding my progress? Once they get that picture, what will be the next step that they can actually do to elevate and ensure that they can actually redefine what success looks like? What's the next step?
Well, once leaders are aware of their limiting beliefs and their blind spots, then it's a matter of really identifying those and working through them and reframing them. So if you have a limiting belief related to self, like I'm not enough, then you have to be able to, every time that shows up, it's like, oh, there's that belief again. You have to confront it. It's not real. Like, that's a lie. That's something that happened in my childhood. And amazingly enough, before we push forward with that, most people have limiting beliefs that hold them back from being as successful as they could be. And it's from their childhood. So they're operating from like this 8-year-old self. Right? If you see an executive, I've had this happen where someone will just get really angry or really triggered in a meeting and they might like push papers or throw their pen or stomp off, right? Like, it's childish behavior because something in their brains is getting triggered. And when you can identify those, when you're aware of them, then it's just a matter of recognizing them and having that metacognition before you move forward, before you respond, because what a lot of people do is react. So when you're talking about the limiting beliefs, typically they need to work with someone to discover them and really dive deep into that. And it's not as hard of a process as some people think it is. It's just a matter of having someone guide you back from where you are now to the things that show up that hold you back.
I love that. If you want to take it like an example, and I love the fact that you said at times you may need guidance like a coach to kind of walk you through the process because at times there could be triggers that people may not be aware of that just shows up in situations. Maybe it's a job opportunity and you're looking to get a promotion that you've always had the idea that I can never maybe move past the role of a manager, and you're like, how can I break through that? Because when you look at everyone around you, it's always a case of there's almost like a glass ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking and working through it. If you had to let's just pick that for example, and someone has that limited belief of having that block of not being able to pass a particular threshold. Maybe they're currently earning, let's say, $100,000 per
Mm-hmm.
annum, and they know there's that next move. And then when someone talks to them about, this is the next break, I want to become like a project director. But they
Mm-hmm.
know that there's something that keeps ringing in their head that says, no, it's not possible. It's that imposter syndrome kind of shows up as well.
Absolutely.
How do you
And
take
imposter syndrome is one of those that you can really deal with by looking at limiting beliefs, but also it's not just a limiting mindset. A lot of times you might need a new set of skills, right? So when imposter syndrome shows up, when you're like, oh, I'd really like that promotion, but I'm not capable, you have to check in with two things. What are the skills I need to reach that next level of success, both internally and externally? So what are the mindset shifts I need to make? And then what are the skills I need to develop? And with imposter syndrome and things holding you back, I see this a lot with introverts. A lot of introverts have this misperception that you have to be extroverted to be in leadership. And that's not true at all. You can learn how to communicate more effectively. You can learn how to kind of step beyond your comfort zone when you need to, when you're presenting or you're speaking in front of a group. But it doesn't matter if you're introverted or extroverted. Once you deal with your limiting beliefs, you can be unstoppable. But it really, I think what bothers me with imposter syndrome is in the media now, especially social media, there's a lot of stuff about, oh, imposter syndrome is just fear. It's like, some of it is. Some of it is a mindset, but some of it is a skill set. And that's the good news, because external skills are easier to develop than to work through your mindset. So it's a combination, but it's absolutely possible. It's about identifying what's holding you back, and then internally and externally, and then taking the steps to make that happen. So a lot of my clients that are like mid-level, maybe they're a project manager, and here, like in a construction company that I work with, a project manager that wants to become a senior project manager, or a senior project manager that wants to become a project executive, or a project executive that wants to become one of the top C-suite execs. It's all about, okay, what skills do you need? So you're going to work on those technical skills, and then you and I, or you and your coach, are going to work on your mindset.
I love that because I have like a framework that I teach my clients. So I call it strap up. The first step is obviously a set of self-assessment. You spoke
Mhm.
about that already, where you assess where you're currently at, what are the skills you have, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. And then I talk about doing some tactical research. Go out there and find out what does the industry need today? Where is the market going? Right. And that way you can bring that information back and re-engineer into a gap analysis and say, based on what I have, based on what the market wants, or based
Yeah,
on where the job I really want to get to, where exactly are the gaps? That's the R. And then the A is where you then go in and do like an alignment and say, okay, now I know that, for instance, I need to improve my communication, or it might be a technical skill. For
right,
instance, now we're talking about AI, and we're talking about how you can leverage technology. And if you want to become like a tech executive, you need to understand what the trends are,
yeah,
identify those skills, and then you can then identify who can help you get there. If there is a gap, or what training, if you need to go back to school.
right,
Because a lot of the time, people have these ideas as to, I want to take the next move, I want to do the next thing, but they don't have concrete steps written down. Right?
right.
You have your goals. You say, I want to make 300,000 by the end of
Yes,
the year. But how are you going to really, really get there? It's all about having those practical steps. I really,
yeah,
really love that. And I love the fact that you mentioned you identified the skills. You also identify, the mindset shifts that also need to happen to definitely get there. Now let's
yeah,
take it further. Now, when you've done that, let's say we have people who they have done a self-assessment now, and they now understand that maybe I have a gap, or maybe they feel that I don't even have a gap. I'm already capable, Julie, of
mhm,
going to the next, getting to the next level. However, I have just been bypassed maybe over and over. How can that person like tackle success overall and say, how do they then position themselves for that next opportunity when they feel that they have been missed over for whatever
yes.
reason?
Yes, and it's so interesting because sometimes people can't see themselves as clearly as other people see themselves. So I've worked with one person comes to mind when you were talking about that always was right below C-suite, but every time they were hiring someone in, he got looked over. And and it took a while to figure it out because he's like, I always get great reviews. I'm so valuable to the company. All of his annual reviews were impeccable. But when he was on calls with me, he was very monotone. He was very like just to talk like this. And he didn't have a lot of energy or enthusiasm. And I stopped, and I'm not going to say his name for confidentiality, but I'm like, sir, is this how you show up
At work.
in your meetings? And yeah, at work. And he said, yes, this is who I am. I'm like, okay. I said, well, you see, describe to me the people that are C-suite. Like, describe the different personalities. And we went through each one. And I'm like, so if you want to reach the next level, you're going to have to stretch beyond this. You're going to have to work on your energy.
Yes.
And so that's something people don't really think about. But your energy, the way that you show up in a space, is how you get to the highest levels of leadership, because they're outward facing. Right. So it's not just how you are internally, because people can, if you're monotone like this and you do a good job, that's fine. But if you want to go to the higher levels, you're going to have those business meetings, those dinners, be at the annual parties. You are the face of the company now. And so what does your company represent? And how are you going to be able to make some shifts? You don't have to change who you are, because I want people to be authentic. But you do sometimes have to shift to represent the company the way that the company wants to be represented.
100%. So there definitely has to be some practical changes that needs to happen from, physical appearance, from, how you communicate, how you show up and add value as well. So let's take this, a different gear. When we now look at this and we say we're redefining success, because at times a lot of these factors may be things that affect us at home. How
Mhm.
can we paint this picture of that um holistic canvas of creating success overall? And so for
Yeah.
you to truly achieve the success you want, it goes beyond just the performance at work, because you can also be an A plus, an A fly at work, but your personal life may be a mess, or you could be great at home, your work life would be a mess as well. So what does this mean by success redefined, Julie?
And that's why I actually shifted from just focusing on high performance in a career to your whole life. Because, when I work with clients, usually about 80% of it is career, because that's why they hire me. But if you are thriving in your career, but your relationships are failing, or if you're thriving in your relationships, but you're 70 pounds overweight and you don't have the energy to make it through a day without like 20 cups of coffee and passing out on your couch when you get home, then you're not really thriving in life. And is that success? Right? Over time, your career is going to start to suffer if your relationships or your health are suffering. And so it is looking at all of that. And everyone has their own definition of success. And that is something that everyone right now that is watching the show should stop and think about. Like, stop in your tracks, stop what you're doing, stop your phone, because a lot of times when people are listening, they're also doing other things. So stop being distracted and think about this for a minute. In your career, what does success look like? In your relationships, what does success look like? When it comes to your health, how would you say I'm healthy and thriving? When it comes to your finances, what does it look like to be successful for you? And the reason it's so important to define success for ourselves is because society is always telling us what success means.
Yeah.
But if we're trying to fit ourselves into somebody else's definition, kind of like I talked about earlier with me trying to live the life my parents set out for me and not who I really was, there will be a disconnect. And that disconnect will make you very unhappy, and it will detract from your success across the board. So that's the most important thing. What does success look like to you? Once you've determined that, once you've defined success, it's now creating a vision. Where am I today and where do I want to be? And once you've defined your ideal life, like
Sure.
I'm thriving in career, relationships, health, finance, then it's a matter of, okay, what are the steps? Like we talked about with leadership, what are the steps I need to do to ascend in my career? What are the things I need to do with my partner or in my relationships? Because it doesn't have to just be intimate relationships. It could be relationships with children, relationships with colleagues. What do I need to do in my relationships to deepen the connection and to show up as the best version of myself while supporting and empowering others? And then from there, health. What does it look like when you're healthy, not just from a physical standpoint, but mental health as well? And then finances, because as much as we don't want to focus on
Money.
material success, so to speak, which I think the world always pushes us towards, the reality is you have to achieve some form of financial success to have the freedom you want to create your ideal life.
100%. I know. It's one piece that is kind of all interconnected. And when you do almost like a root cause analysis, when you speak to a client and you find out, what's truly going on,
Right.
when there's one part of, one's life that isn't functioning at that optimal rate, it also always filters through to other layers of life. So true success truly means when you can definitely look at your life as a whole, you look at the project you're currently working on at work, you look at yourself at home, and you can say, yes, I am happy. I'm earning enough money to create the life that I want. And it doesn't mean that you have, your bank account with millions and millions of dollars, right? But
Right.
probably you can actually afford the necessities that life actually, needs you to fulfill at that particular time. And then you always have a plan on where you want to get to and how you get to the next step as well. I want us to talk about even around, just being able to communicate this because I know communication skill is one piece that kind of ties in even when it comes to success at work and success at home. Because a lot of the times you said people have got great ideas, they can say, I've done an assessment, I've seen everything, I believe I deliver value, but communication may have broken down, across different aspects. How can leaders really work on their communication skill? How can they ensure that they become, better communicators overall? Because I know for a fact that you could have the best of ideas, but if no one understands it, it is as good as it doesn't even exist. So how can we really help and work on our communication?
Well, the first thing we need to do to communicate more effectively is listen. And I think that people are always focused on conveying their messages. But if you are in a relationship, you need to listen to the people around you. So if it's at work, who's on your team and have you heard them before you share your vision? Because people support what they create. So listening helps you really bring everything together. And then from there, you want to be clear, you want to be concise, you want to use concrete examples, and you want to frame things as we. And that's something, we're such a self centered society. And I'm not like accusing anyone. We just, as a whole, it's me, me, me. I feel this way. I think this. But when you're building relationships, things need to be presented in the context of we. Like, how do we work together to move forward on this initiative? How do we work together to solve this problem? And when you frame things in the context of we, you're bringing people together, you're connecting, you're deepening that relationship. And that's something I think most people miss. We focus on clear, concise, all the C's of communication, but we don't spend enough time focusing and framing the we.
We need to go from me to we. That's a perfect segue as we get into project lifestyle. I want to just take this a little bit further. I know that Julie has been super, super exceptional. She's spoken about, how we ensure we get a self-assessment done. You look at, areas that, maybe blind spots that you may not even realize. You need to understand how we communicate better. We need to understand how we show up because as leaders, you become an example that other people kind of see and they want to emulate. And I thought about how can we tie this overall to personal development. I want us to look at strategic leadership overall because when I think about strategic leadership, I think about that overall vision that you set for yourself. And Julie, hone in on this really well because you have to think about the overall vision for your life and how that even ties into the vision of an organization. And I look at it and I say, when you navigate this, something that comes to mind for me is that a lot of the times it might be misalignment.
Mhm.
And you may find that, the organization may be going a certain way, or maybe your relationships at home may not be going the way you definitely want. And then you wonder how exactly can you bring it all back in alignment. And so I want to really talk about how we develop resilience as we cope and we manage through all this. I know even offline when we were talking this morning, I'm like, I haven't up since 5 a.m. this morning because I had classes for
Yeah.
my doctorate. And then you wonder, right, what exactly can you do? In building resilience, I think is a critical skill that every leader needs to have, to actually achieve success overall. The first piece about self-awareness and the mindset piece. Understanding your strengths, understanding your weaknesses, and how you can typically respond to adversity, I think is absolutely critical. I believe that cultivating a growth mindset, I always try to see the glass half full rather than half empty. It's the same glass. So we can either decide to focus on problems or look at other ways to actually resolve this. The number two piece around this as well is about stress management. How do we manage stress and how do we cope with stress? Because the reality is, for people who are within the project management field, it's always a fast paced environment where you are constantly dealing with stakeholder requirements. You're dealing with different needs from the customer. You're dealing with your team. Then you have your personal life. How can you do this? You need to understand that developing stress management and coping mechanisms will help you become more effective. Another thing is having a good support network. I cannot overemphasize this because it gets lonely. At times, you might believe you think that you have friends, you have people, but you need just a very few people who you can definitely lean on, who can support you. It could be friends, family, a good network. It could be mentors. It could even be colleagues. But ensuring that you have good people who can coalesce and work with you when you're going through those times where you can't even get out of bed, or where you have a manager who's requesting so much that you cannot even deliver on, or when you're going through a hard time, in your personal life, maybe with your kids or with family or with parents, you need a good support network. And then number four for me is about adaptability and flexibility. As product professionals, we talk about agility, where you say you have to be flexible to respond to change. That's absolutely critical because in order to really be successful overall, we are constantly juggling so many balls. Being able to embrace change and embrace uncertainty, seeing it as an opportunity for growth rather than seeing it as a threat. I think it's another shift that I had to do because there are times where I'm like, I missed an opportunity. Rather than saying that, gosh, that's the end of it, I feel that door just closed. Something bigger is better. Think about that. Even when you feel that maybe you missed a promotion, rather than saying, goodness, that's a bummer, you're going to say, goodness, they just missed a germ. Right? I'm going to go off. There's going to be another bigger opportunity for me. And I remember when I had to navigate, leaving the corporate to actually start up my business. I was like, goodness, I had the plan as to what am I going to really do next. At the time when I was home and trying to navigate this, I was like, oh my God, my mates should be doing XYZ. Look, my colleagues are already vice presidents and stuff right now. But today I am super grateful that I made that move because I am living my best life today. I'm not just only, helping organizations, I'm helping people create a better life for themselves. And I'm also getting paid super well for that as well. So I am like, goodness, I am super excited that I had that opportunity, that door actually shut because it has created a bigger door for me to create this. So just having and creating that shift is absolutely critical. Being more optimistic, being, one that who says, I am gonna go for it, although it may seem dark and gloomy right now. I am gonna take it head on. Julie, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh my goodness. That I was taking all these notes while you were talking. I'm like, oh yes, 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 and nodding my head because we're so aligned on this. When you talk about alignment, that's one of the first things you talked about. It's a process of realigning your life. And you have to be very honest when you look at each area of your life, what's working and what's not working. in the areas of career, relationship, health, finances. Like, what's happening right now that brings me an abundance of joy? And then what's happening that isn't working out, that's bringing me down, that's detracting from my success and my version of success. And it's that list of what's not working that creates the game plan. We talked about where you are and where you want to be. What's working is great. Keep doing that. But the real game changer is dealing with what's not working. And that's where you find the steps. Okay, here's what's not working in my career. What can I do to solve that problem? Here's what's happening in my relationships with my partner or with my colleagues that I need to shift. Here's what's going on with my health. And I see this all the time with executives, I really know I need to work out, but I'm so tired. I have to work late. I'm not getting enough time with my partner. Well, guess what? Do it as a joint thing. Work out with your partner, work out with your kids. You say, if you have kids and you don't have time with them, make it something that you can do together, a bonding activity. Maybe you run together. Maybe you just take a walk after work every day. Maybe you go swimming, whatever it is. Make it align, create that equanimity in your life where when you're not working, you can have your relationships and your health and those leisure activities together, so you feel that joy. So it is about designing your life
Yes.
and really aligning it with your values and that vision.
I love that piece around alignment because I had to do that as well. And then you realize that a lot of the time it's even not about money anymore. And you might say that I may even decide to take another role because it gives you more time with family, or
Mhm.
maybe it gives you more flexibility. Because overall, you can have all the money in your bank account, Julie, and still you're not fulfilled, right?
Yeah.
People are actually committing suicide, things are happening all around, and you're wondering, I thought this person had everything. And you look at it and say, they look super successful from the outside. But when you peel the onion backwards, you're going to find that indeed this wasn't success at all. They had probably maybe the titles, in the organization. But when it comes back to your personal life, you're like, what is it for? Right? Nothing can actually numb the pain that currently exists. And so I'm super excited that we're talking about redefining success. Where we need, I want the action point for everyone is to go back and go and do that assessment and say,
Yeah.
what exactly is a true vision for my life?
Right.
Where do I want to be in the next 5 or 10 years? You want to say something, Julie?
Yeah, well, we get sold on, again, society's vision of success. And we look at famous people and athletes with their cars and their big houses and their jewelry and their money. And what I found, especially, I see it a lot in America, it's called the American dream, but it's spread out to all types of countries. There's this mark that's set out for us. And unfortunately, my clients tend to climb the ladder, get there, and on paper, they have everything they're supposed to have. They have the cars, the house, the partner. Sometimes, if they want kids, they have the kids, and they're miserable because they did everything society told them was going to make them happy. And they're not. There's something missing. And that's where we get into purpose. So I was talking about clarity earlier. And really, I see these three pillars. You have to have clarity on your life, on your leadership, on your company and its vision. And then you have to go for impact and then equanimity. So, impact. What is it that you want to do in your life that's fulfilling to you, your purpose? And how are you going to positively impact others? Because, like you said, if you're working really hard and you have all of these things and you go home and you're alone,
Mm,
what's it all worth? What are you doing this for?
yes. Yes.
And I think that's something that people really, we stay busy and we work and we're like hamsters on wheels. And then one day comes, usually middle of life or later, you have a moment, a catalyst. Maybe something happens with health. Maybe you lose a job. Maybe, it's something that wakes you up, that stops you in your tracks. And you say, what is this all about? What am I really doing with my life? And unfortunately, if you don't have that, you get to later in life, you become one of those people at retirement that looks back and was like, what was it all worth? And you have regret. And what's awesome about life is every day is an opportunity to reset. So if you're listening right now and you're like, yeah, I wish I would have done things differently. Great. Today's your day because you can change right now. And that's the amazing gift of life, is that when you recognize that you're out of alignment in one of the areas or all of the areas, maybe you're listening and you're like, my whole life's a mess. That was me at 33 years old. I realized that I was living the life my parents set out for me, and I was in an unhealthy relationship, and I had 3 kids, and I was rebuilding, starting my career after staying home to raise them. And it was like, none of my life is working, like none of it. And it's terrifying. But the good news is you don't have to do it alone. That's one of the things I love about coaching. I wish I would have had someone.
I know. Same here. Oh my God. Yeah.
Or if it's not a coach, maybe a partner or a friend, somebody to walk alongside you and hold you accountable and cheer you on, because it is a shift. And change, it sounds hard and it feels hard, but it's mostly mental. Once you embrace the idea that anything is possible in your life, if you're willing to do the work, then you can change fast. I mean, my whole life shifted dramatically in the last decade. And it took, to get the vision right, it did take a few years for me.
That's
But
right.
because it was trial and error and I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a guide. But I've seen my clients come to me and they're like, my life's a mess. I went bankrupt. I had a terrible divorce. I'm recovering from addiction. I've worked with all different types of clients that basically it's like starting over. And the good news is when you rebuild that foundation, you can build it so strong. And that's a gift when you're like, okay, this is all a mess. It's like a demolition, right? Good, great. I mean, I love it when people get to that point because it's like, shh, we're
Start.
starting over. We're
Yeah.
hitting that reset button. And now let's do it the right way. Get clear on what you want in your life, your career, relationships, health, finance. Get really clear if you're a leader of a company or a budding leader of a company, what's the vision you have for your company or your team if you're not like the head of the company. And then what's the impact that you want to have on other people's lives? And then the final piece is that equanimity. How do we bring it all together and create a peaceful sense of contentment and flow? And that's kind of the upper echelon. Like,
Right. Harmony. I call it harmony, right? When
yeah.
everything is all in sync for sure. Oh my God. I think, time for all time. It really has so much germs to actually give to us. I'm super excited. One main question that just came up was time management is one of my number one challenge. How can we manage or be more effective with our time?
I'm a huge fan of block scheduling and block scheduling with your entire life, not just your work hours. So I like to have your morning block. What do you like to do in the morning? Some people wake up and work out. Some people meditate. Some people wake up, have their coffee, read the news or watch the news, go to work. Whatever it is, that's a block of your time. Then batching tasks. So at work, it's really important to batch task, because if you just have a list of like 50 things you need to do that day, it's not going to work out for you. It's just, your brain doesn't work that way. So the best way to manage your time is with these time blocks. So at work, if you have an email block, then during that block, you're answering emails. You have a block for if you had like 3 projects you're working on. Project 1 from like 9 to 10. That's your block. Now you say you have a meeting. Okay, well, then you move that block back. It shows up after the meeting. That's what I love about block scheduling, is that things are on your schedule in blocks. And then if something comes up, you just handle that, put out that fire, go to that meeting, and then you come back. Okay, here's my next block of time. Where people screw up in time management is typically not the work aspect. It's making sure that they get their work done so they have their evening time, right? Their after work time. How are they going to fit in their exercise? How are they going to fit in time with their partner, their spouse, their loved one, their children, whoever it is that's important to them? And then how are they going to relax and unwind so they have what they need, the energy to be the most vibrant, amazing version of themselves the next day? And that's something, again, when you talk about time management, the stress management comes in. What about your day do you love? What on your schedule every day do you look to as like I can't wait to do that? Mine used to be yoga. Now it's Pilates, because the Pilates studio is closer, honestly. There's a time management issue for me, but I knew I needed to do that. I take walks with my dog when I can, when it works out, because I work from home, in the middle of the day. So I have a client call, then I'll take a break, and it's my little lunch break, walk with my dog, and then I have another client. And I've been able to design my life like that because I'm blessed to work from home. But if you're in the office, you can do the same thing. You have your block. When's your lunch break? And stop working during your lunch break, because so many people do. It's not good for your brain and your body. Get up, get active, take a walk. If it's cold and miserable where you are, walk around your office. If people think you're nuts, we'll invite them to join.
Wow, I know. And I think that's another thing. We all just need to be intentional about
Yes.
these little things. And the times we kind of say, oh, yes, I want to go get a gym membership, or I need to wait for that. But you could just take a walk. You could, do stuff around the house. I tell people when I do my cleaning and things around, that's my form of exercise. So I'm cleaning the bathroom, I'm cleaning
Yeah.
the room, I'm doing those things, I'm getting active. But I think it's definitely critical that we try and bring it all together. I love the fact that you spoke about that harmony piece,
Mhm.
because even with time, I time box everything where I have my work and my personal life and calendars. I know I told my husband, we have that appointment, like he schedules it. It's on my work calendar, is on his as well. So we can see
Mhm.
what we need to do, because if it's not scheduled, it doesn't
Yes.
happen. I have a
Exactly.
business, I've got a nonprofit, I serve on so many boards as well. I have to put it all together so I can see it. If not, it doesn't happen. So just
Exactly.
scheduling and just managing my time, and then I block out time as well to get key tasks actually done. That's been a lifesaver for sure. Eh,
Right.
I can't even believe it's almost the top of the hour. But before we actually go any further, I want to just put a bow on this, Julie. What would be that overall summary that you want to give for this? People who really want to redefine success. What
I
would
want
that
people to think about, you were just talking about scheduling, and if it's not on your schedule, it's not going to happen. And I do not understand for the life of me. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've made these mistakes myself. But when you look at your life as a whole, you have your earlier years, you're growing up, you're going to school, then you have your career,
Yeah.
right? Then if you choose to have children, you have your children,
Yes.
and then they go away, and then you have the second part of your life, right? If you look at your life as a continuum, and you're blessed to say live 80 years,
Yes.
school and all of that is done by your mid 20s. If you have kids, that's a chapter here. And if you have your career, it's in what, maybe 30 years, but your relationships with your significant other, if you're lucky to have a significant other, spans 50 plus years,
Yep.
perhaps. And so why are we spending 8 hours a day on our career and 8 minutes a day with our partners?
I know. Mm.
So when you think about success, think about that. You're prioritizing your work. You have to, that's your job. but prioritize your health, your wellness, your loved ones equally. Don't block them, push them out of the way. Don't take those blocks and, kind of push those off because, oh, I have to get this done for work. When work's done, work's done. And so if I could leave everyone with a thought, it's clarity, impact, and equanimity. It's getting clear on the life that you want and taking the steps to create it, and not doing it in a vacuum. Impact, the way that you impact other people in your social circles, in your community, with your colleagues, that's what defines you. At the end of your life, when they come to your end of life ceremony, what are they going to stand up and say? That's the impact that you have. And then after that, equanimity, bringing it all together. You have the definition of success, you're clear on it, you're working to create that vision. What brings that peace, that harmony, that flow into it to bring it all together and make you feel like you've achieved success? And it's really, really so important. When you are living aligned and congruent with the best within you, you thrive in all areas. And so when you go back to being the best project manager, the best business leader, and strategic leadership, you have to show up as your best self first. And then you take that energy and all of that amazing being to your work. And it has ripple effects on everyone around you.
Oh goodness, that was a wonderful bow on that. At the end of the day, at the end of life, work is gonna be forgotten. Everything else is gonna go. It's about you as a person, as a leader. Forget all the risk registers, the project chatter, the decision documents. How do you bring it all together on a daily basis? How intentional are you with everything you do? Because at the end of the day, it's about your life. The things that money can never give you. But fine, money's actually great. But when you do that together in harmony, you can amplify success for sure. I want to thank everyone for actually joining us today. We had Edgar from Mexico, we had Chimezi from Nigeria, we had people from Calgary, we had Hope, we had Osa from Nigeria as well. I think we had from Saudi Arabia as well in the house. We had David. I want to say thank you. I cannot actually read everyone's name, but you know that I see you. Your time here is extremely valuable, and I want to say thank you. It was a great session for me as well. It's all about taking action. Every time I show up, I come in and I add value. I want to say, what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be intentional about me being present, more even at work, as well as being intentional with my spouse. I'm going to go for more walks as well. I am going to do some more research and understand where's the market going because I want to be valuable and I'm going to be taking those intentional steps. Let me know in the comments what one action will you be taking away? What are you going to be doing differently? Especially because we know we're getting into 2024. It's a good time to do almost like a house cleaning, right? Just a quick check. Go back and review your life, review your career, and say, what did I think I was going to achieve in 2023? Where am I at today? What could I have done differently? There's an opportunity for you to set the stage right for 2024. Julie, I want people to know exactly how can they find you, how can they actually connect with you and learn more about your services.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So I do a lot on LinkedIn, Juile Hruska. It's that Hruska. That's a little tricky for some people. So you'll find me there. And also my website is powerfulleaders.com. So powerfulandleaderstogether.com. And that's how you can find more information about me. There's a form you can fill out to connect with me there or email me based on LinkedIn. And I would love to connect with you all. I create a lot of content on LinkedIn and put it out there for how you can be your best in all areas of your life. Because again, yes, we're here as executive coaches to talk about you and your career. But as you discovered today, it's not just about that. If you really want to live your best life, it's about the big picture: career, relationships, health, finance, living at your optimal levels.
100%. Goodness. I want to say thank you so much. We pulled this off. I know I said you're going to have to come back as well on the show. I say this a lot. Jeff Bezos, he said he wants to make a ding in the universe. but I say together. As strata catalysts, focus on achieving one goal, we can make a positive dent in the universe together. Remember, we're going from me to we. We want to create the multiplicity effect. Once again, I want to say thank you so much for joining. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, experience in the comment. Make sure you remember, share one thing you're actually going to be running away with, and let us continue the conversation. You can find me on folaalabi.com. Let's talk and let's chat. Let's support each other and let's grow and create a life that pretty much is definitely worth living. Because at the end of the day, with money, health, finance, relationship, as you've actually just heard from Julie, it's possible. We have done it and we're currently working on it every single day, but it can even be better. Thank you so much. And same time next week, we're going to be here sharing and learning together. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. Bye bye.